In this video, I'm going to trace the development of the shortest NBA player in recent history to make an All-Star game, as well as an All-NBA team, Isaiah Thomas. Listed at 5'9" but closer to 5'8" in reality, Thomas is around the average height for men in the United States. This makes the heights to which he has reached in terms of his basketball career even more amazing, and he gives hope to many of the shorter aspiring guards throughout the world. As a player initially known for succeeding despite being the 60th overall pick in the 2011 draft, Isaiah Thomas has really built his stardom around his more recent performances with the Boston Celtics over the last 3 seasons. His first year with the Celtics was shortened because he joined the team midway through the season via a trade with the Phoenix Suns, and he also missed several games due to injury. Over the last 2 seasons with the Celtics, Thomas has averaged over 32 minutes per game, making him a starter in terms of minutes. In those 30-plus minutes, he has averaged 22 and 29 points per game in the 2 most recent seasons, as well as 6.2 and 5.9 assists. What really amazes me is the efficiency that Thomas retains despite his height. He shot a very respectable 46.3% from the field last year, and a well above league average 37.9% from 3. His most impressive stat was his free throw percentage, which was 90.9% last season, putting him in an elite category of free throw shooters. The question remains, what is the difference between the Isaiah Thomas that we saw at his previous teams of the Kings and the Suns, and the Isaiah Thomas that we have seen in Boston? Well, the answer is that Isaiah himself hasn't changed a whole lot, but the way that he is utilized by his coaches definitely has. Thomas brings several things to the offensive side of the ball: unbelievable quickness and acceleration, as well as elite shooting from all ranges, 3-point, mid-range, and foul line. This combination has been put to maximum use by the Celtics' excellent head coach Brad Stevens, who has put a team on the floor that is designed to aid Thomas in his scoring efforts. The first thing that has changed for Thomas is the personnel surrounding him. Boston has made an effort to put as many shooters on the floor as possible, and these shooters have been given the green light by Brad Stevens to take as many threes as they can produce. As a result, the Celtics ranked 3rd in the NBA in 3-point attempts, behind only the Houston Rockets and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Most notably, the Celtics have Al Horford as their starting center. Horford shot a career-high 3.6 three-pointers per game last year, and shot just under the league average for threes at 35.5%. His presence as a 3-point threat pulls opposing team centers up and away from the basket whenever Horford was involved in a pick and roll or dribble handoff, because they have to maintain a close distance to be able to close out on Horford's threes. This is one of the things that gave Thomas excellent driving lanes when coming off of pick and rolls. Kelly Olynyk performed a similar role as Horford in pick and rolls in terms of his ability to stretch the floor, and he played as Horford's backup in the regular season and even made it onto the floor during clutch playoff minutes. In order to fully maximize the combination of Boston's shooting big men and Isaiah Thomas's versatile scoring ability, Brad Stevens involved Thomas and Horford or Olynyk in as many dribble handoffs as possible. These handoffs allow the player receiving the handoff to build up more speed before going around the screen when compared to a traditional pick and roll. Thomas took more handoffs than any other player in the NBA last season, with 216 plays of this type. This meant that he could build up speed before going around a Horford screen, forcing the opposing team's guard to play faster in order to keep up with Thomas, a near impossible task given his top speed and acceleration. With Thomas being almost impossible to contain coming off a dribble handoff, it's no surprise that he is able to get to the rim at will. And because Boston plays many small ball lineups, with Horford as the largest player, the players who rotate onto Thomas to contest under the basket are often undersized compared to a traditional NBA big man. All this being said, Thomas is not impossible to guard, and he was the NBA's most blocked player last season, despite his creative and often amazing finishing ability. This probably isn't much of a surprise given his height, and it doesn't dissuade him from contesting players at the rim. In fact, Thomas continues to drive to the rim at a high clip, allowing him to succeed in one other area of his game. Last year, Thomas attempted a career high in free throws at 8.35 per game. This put him in 7th in the league in terms of attempts per game. One of the reasons for the jump in free throw attempts from this season to previous seasons is simply recognition and respect for Thomas. Players often complain that star players get preferential treatment in terms of foul calls, and if this is true, then the fact that Thomas made an All-Star game last season would add to the likeliness of him getting calls from contact this season. This may also be the one area that his height actually helps him. Because of his small stature compared to most NBA superstars, defenders are not able to be as physical with Thomas because simple physics dictates that he will be more affected by the same force when compared to a larger player like LeBron James. Therefore, defenders cannot bump into Thomas as hard as they could into LeBron in order to avoid foul calls. This allows Thomas to have more freedom when driving towards the basket. And not only does Thomas get to the line, but he capitalizes on most of those trips. His percentage of 90.9 ranks second in the entire NBA, behind only CJ McCollum, the Portland Trailblazers sharpshooter. Thomas has great shooting mechanics, especially from the free throw line. As a career 87.6% free throw shooter, Thomas has had great mechanics from the very start of his career. As you can see, Thomas is left-handed. However, if we flip his shot to make him right-handed, his technique is easier to analyze for most people. Thomas has a large amount of turn in his shot. This means that he places his shooting side leg in front of his offside leg, and he points his feet away from his shooting side to match this leg alignment. The position of his feet forces his body to turn as well, and as you can see, our right-handed Thomas is not really facing directly to the rim. Instead, his chest is facing a point closer to us, way off to the side of the basket. This orientation allows Thomas's shoulders to move more freely, especially by relieving tension in his shooting arm deltoid. Such freedom of movement results in a more relaxed shot, which adds to a shooter's free throw percentage. Thomas has truly perfected this craft, and I expect him to be among the NBA leaders in free throw percentage for as long as his playing career lasts. In conclusion, Isaiah Thomas has been an excellent player from the beginning of his NBA career in terms of his skill package. Unlike many other players, Thomas started his career as a good NBA shooter, and has maintained this level of shooting throughout his career, both from the three-point line and the free throw line. The biggest reason for the recent jump in his level of output, and the resulting fame from that jump, has been the situation he has found himself in Boston. In my opinion, Brad Stevens is one of the best coaches in the NBA, and he has been able to put Thomas in the best possible situation for him to succeed in terms of surrounding him with the correct teammates and using the best offensive playbook to suit Thomas's skills. This has led to both personal success for Thomas and team success for the Celtics, which is ultimately Stevens' goal. I look forward to seeing how the addition of Gordon Hayward grows the Celtics' potent offense, and I expect Thomas to become more efficient as the floor spacing for Boston improves even more. While he will become more efficient, I wouldn't be surprised to see his statistical production taper off a small amount, because Hayward will demand more touches and more shots than a player like Avery Bradley did. Either way, I hold the utmost respect for Thomas, and he continues to be a great role model for shorter basketball players whose dream is to make the NBA.